Good morning. My name's John Myers. I'm with the Tennessee Valley Authority. TVA's come up several times in this conference, so it's a pleasure to be here with you. I am representing Brenda Brickhouse. She's sorry she couldn't be here today, but certainly we're proud to be here, proud to be part of this conference. What I'd hoped to do today was to show a little bit of slides of who we are and what we do, and then some of our clean energy journey of what we've done, where we are. Talk a little bit some of the activities we're undertaking now to look at the path forward on our clean energy options for the future and how we're evaluating that with multiple stakeholders, with our customers and all, and then just tee up a few things that might get a robust question and answer session going. Who we are, certainly we're 82 years old. We are a federal corporation. We work on a mission of energy, environmental stewardship, and economic development. Our power service sector sells power at the wholesale level. We operate a bulk transmission system. We sell power to 155 local power companies. We sell that in 7 states. In that 7-state region, there's about 9 million consumers in that area, and we also sell electricity to 57 directly served customers, and those are mostly energy-intensive businesses. You can see from our power service map, the gray, the shaded area here. That's our service area of where we sell our electricity. And then, if anybody can really win A pluses at the eye chart, you can see the individual power generation stations that we've got over here. Certainly with hydro, fossil, and a complete generation set. As we talk about this conference around the Clean Power Plan. Certainly it is the power service sector, that portion of our mission, and how it relates certainly with environmental stewardship and with economic development that make it an interesting topic for us. But as we talk about the Clean Power Plan, and we've talked about the building blocks that are in there as was discussed by some earlier speakers, it's really what you're doing with the Clean Power Plan or building the best system of emission reductions. You're really looking at how you reduce coal-fired generation. What are those things you can do to make coal-fired, either lower emitting on energy efficiency of it, or dialing up gas, or dialing up other clean energy options, or reducing demand. And those are the knobs that you have, but in the end result, you're dialing down carbon emissions, and primarily from coal-fired plants. So as we look at that, TVA's made a variety of key asset decisions around our fleet of power generation stations from coal-fired power. I think if we'd have shown this chart just a few years ago, it would be eye-popping, but we've walked through it. We've worked with the communities on where we're retiring some plants. There is some economic impacts to those areas, but we've been working through that to try to make as smooth a transition as we can. We see that we came into this with about, with 51 plants at 11 coal generating stations in 3 states. As we transition in the decisions that we've made to date on our coal-fired plants, you see that we're going to end up with basically 26 units at 6 plant sites in only 2 states, Kentucky and Tennessee. We've made retirement decisions on a number of these plants. And that was for a variety of reasons. The asset condition looked at the environmental controls that would be needed to meet a suite of environmental rules, either air, water, solid waste, all of those rules. You look at what would it take to meet those rules. You would look at gas prices, the availability of renewable generation, and then certainly options for reducing demand. And we've made those decisions. That's resulted in a lower trajectory of carbon emissions that I'll show later. But as we look at these asset decisions, as we bring off, and basically we're talking about the retirement of 6,800 megawatts of capacity. That's big. That's a lot of horsepower in the system. So as you're looking to meet demand, what are we doing on scaling up clean energy? And so we've been undertaking an integrated resource plan. In fact, I see several faces that have been advising TVA from its stakeholder input. And we certainly have an integrated resource plan that's out there on our website right now that we've taken comment on and we'll be working through. But certainly, as we've looked at those, we do see additional capacity is needing in all planning scenarios, and that's even with varying levels of energy efficiency. We see some new natural gas capacity is needed in every scenario, and some maybe as early as 2020 in some cases, depending on growth. There's no significant, what we're needing in terms of energy, it's more on the intermediate and peaking side, the base-loaded, the base-loaded big units, the big chunks. We think once we bring Watts Bar Unit 2 on, that I'll talk to more about on, that kind of fulfills some of the base loads needs. But certainly as we look forward, I think higher energy efficiency and renewable levels, are showing promise in the IRP, and we'll certainly, you'll see more about that and the direction that we're heading there, but we invite comment on that. And certainly as we move through approaching the Clean Power Plan. I wanted to talk a little bit, just in general, about some of our scaling up clean energy. As we talked about the TVA power system, and it's a system where our firm capacity, roughly 32,000 megawatts, and think of that as horsepower. That's the size of the engine that it takes to drive the machine that produces the energy on peak load days. We also invest in energy efficiency to try to dampen that down, and demand response that requires us not to have quite as big a machine and to get energy efficiency over the course of the time. But as we scale up clean energy, I think one of the things that is unique to Tennessee is bringing on Watts Bar 2. We're looking to bring that unit on this year into commercial operation this year or within a year. And it will bring on about 9,000 gigawatt hours of carbon-free emissions. And that's really a big chunk of energy. When you look at 1,100 megawatts generating 24 hours a day, it adds up. So it is a big clean generating source, but that's not only clean energy source. We're adding some utility scale solar. We've announced some projects in Alabama for utility scale solar. And then certainly we've got a picture here of solar on a distribution system that's part of the Valley's grid. It's not necessarily our grid, but it's part of the Valley's grid and adds a component to clean energy as we move along. So as we look at kind of the ratio of what we see in terms of a balanced portfolio, you can see kind of a pie chart of where the energy comes from in 2014, and then what we're looking at as, just an option of where we see things going in 2024. And certainly in 2024, there's some decisions that need to be made that haven't been made that would get us here, but that's basically how we think about things. You'll see that in 2014 about it and gas, about 47% of the electricity that we delivered came from those sources. So over half of the energy that we're producing has no CO2 content in it, and I'll get to that. I'll bring a point to that. And then you can see how we think about certainly hydro and other renewables in there making about 14% of the pie. And then seeing how as we move forward in 2024, we'll see how that works out. Certainly we see additional gas. The big thing here is additional gas as we move forward into 2024, and then a growth of EE and demand side management activities as we move forward. But that gives an indication of kind of a directional head of where we're going. But certainly the IRP lays out more scenarios and more strategies that are out there, and there's decisions that we need to make in those. I guess one of the things as we talk about the Clean Power Plan and what TVA is doing is just what we've said in advance of the Clean Power Plan coming out is we have our system, and when we say our system, it's the Tennessee Valley system hooked up with our distribution system, the Valley system. And with that, there are folks that enter into demand response programs. There's people that enter into green power partnerships. So all of that is the system. And so as we look at this, we certainly see that tons have come down dramatically. we've reduced CO2 emissions from 2005 levels over 30%, which I point out was the stated goal of the Clean Power Plan. And we project to be about 40% below 2005 levels by 2020, actually really pretty close to 2018 as we make some of these retirement decisions. So what we've looked around is, if that's the amount, that's the tons. But what we've been approaching both in our IRP and across our system, if we've been looking at the carbon rate, is what is the amount of carbon that is in the electrical energy that we deliver to customers. And that's how we've been approaching it. Now, the Clean Power Plan is vastly different than that. The numbers, the carbon rates that are in the Clean Power Plan are really not associated with that per se. I mean, it discounts all the hydroelectricity that you have and doesn't account for 94% of the existing nuclear that's in there. So they're very different terms. But we've been, from a system planning perspective, we've been really looking from a carbon perspective of how much carbon is in the energy that a consumer gets, how much is in a megawatt. And certainly we'll be down around 700 pounds over the next couple of years, about 700 pounds of carbon per megawatt hour, and we think that's a notable thing. And as we have another slide in here on, certainly economic development and how we think that's going and where we can go with it, is kind of a slide that I wanted to kind of tee up here. Is if you look at CO2 emission rates in pounds per megawatt hour arrayed by price, you see that TVA is not in a bad position. Yes, there's a couple of regional utilities down there that are a little lower than we are, but generally speaking, there are folks that have lower carbon per megawatt than we do, but they are generally higher in price. And what we're putting down here is the industrial rate for electricity. This is kind of the all-in cost on industrial rates. I was interested in Phil Jordan's speech earlier on when he was talking about clean energy companies and what the employment off of clean energy and why we have so much clean energy manufacturing in Tennessee. All customers compete on, all industrial customers are very price sensitive. I don't care if they're making solar panels, I don't care if they're a data center, I don't care what area they're in, they are price sensitive. They all compete on price, but they're also sensitive to the carbon content of electricity. So when we go forward and we're matching, as we make maybe some, try to hold the line on industrial rates and drop down around the 700 pounds per megawatt hour, we're going to be in a fair, Tennessee, it'll provide the Valley with an opportunity for manufacturing clean energy products coming out of here. So as we look at pulp and paper mills, looking at having to quote the amount of carbon per ton of product they put out, or a coating manufacturer, or certainly that are manufacturers that are competing on the international market, where those factors are part of the bid price, or those factors are part of the proposition. We certainly think that as we move forward with a clean energy future, that we've got to provide a format to keep energy prices and carbon content are related. So certainly as we look at that, we're certainly trying to make a sustainability proposal of keeping the Valley, as we look at it, keeping our natural resources, a partnership of moving forward both with energy, environment, and providing a stable platform for manufacturing. And certainly we've been rated by EcoVadis and some others as we look at what we're producing and how we're producing and reporting it with pretty high marks. So I'll kind of stop there and leave some time for some questions.